We're two childhood best friends talking about creative mindset. But today we're talking with another friend.
This is Honestly Dear Listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo!
Serial entrepreneur, former professional singer, and vocal coach Gemma Sugrue has worked with the likes of Bon Iver and Damien Rice. She has built several successful social media platforms, including TikTok and YouTube accounts with a combined follower count of over 500,000. She's here today to talk to us about how to find our creative identity.
I'm Carrie Schaefer.
And I'm Emily Hatch. Let's welcome my personal business coach, Gemma Sugrue.
Welcome, Gemma.
Hi,
What a pleasure it is to have you here.
I'm delighted. I'm a long-time listener, as they say. What's a long-time listener, first-time caller? I listen to this all the time. The algo, if I don't choose to listen to you guys, the algo says that I should.
Oh,
That
wow.
thrills me.
So then from that, we can deduce that you are a weirdo like us.
Yes, thank you.
You're just you're a weirdo.
Correct.
Yes.
Excellent.
So, Gemma, how do you and Emily know each other?
Well, Emily and I have known each other for a few years in different ways. We're both vocal coaches. I'm formerly a vocal coach. I think we would have met in America through VU, but I feel like we met before that through Vocology and Practice.
We
Was
met
it in
even
Cork?
before that because we didn't meet in Cork. I think you weren't there. So I've just loved Gemma for a long time. We met briefly at the ICVT convention in Stockholm. You were like standing in the back of a talk about commercial music.
Yeah.
And I felt alone in a sea of classical university professors, a lot of whom were like complete assholes. And you were
Totally.
standing in the back, and I was like, you looked so like gorgeous. And I'm like, I could tell there are a couple people I'm like, you're not a classical like teacher, you know? And I said hi to you, and you were like, you want to see a bunch of voice teachers fight with each other? And you invited me to the Voice Geek group. That's how we met. Yeah, and then we talked more. We actually got to know each other because of like Vocology and Practice and Vocalize You.
Oh my
But we
God, that
met
is
in
such a
Sweden.
throwback.
Yeah.
In Sweden. Oh my God. I had such an attitude on me for that whole conference because it was 90% classical people. And I loved telling them that I was a pop teacher. I loved using the word pop because they felt so gross. And I was like, yeah. And then I was trying to pull together anyone who was in the pop gang. And that was absolutely like purposeful that I was standing at the back because that was just part of our vibe. We would stand at the back and not like sit down with the rest of the losers.
I love that because I did the same, but I was the opposite. So I was like, I'm a pop teacher. Oh, like, you know, like, don't be mean to me. I remember one person, like, I was like, oh, I'm an uneducated swine. I haven't got my doctorate. And she was like, and just like hard blinked at me and turned her back away from me. And I was like,
I
okay.
know.
So when I saw you, I was like, oh, thank God. You and Marissa Naismith, Dr. Marissa
Oh,
Naismith.
yeah.
Like, that's how we met, Carrie.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. So, Gemma, what do you do now? You said you were a vocal coach then. What do you do now?
So now I am a business coach. I am helping entrepreneurs and I also help artists with their marketing. But I love business. I've always loved business. I've run businesses all my life. I had a singing school that I sold after 10 years to a partnership. And then I developed an artist program that I sold to another partnership. And it's just something that I've liked doing is building something and then at a certain point feeling like I'm not relevant anymore and finding people that have come up through the process and they become the new leaders. I train the leaders in and then I make something new. And I find I'm a creative person. And I actually found out that business gave me the most scope for my creativity. So I'm really happy now to be doing that. I've just qualified as a leadership coach as well. Well, actually in a few weeks, but in my mind, I feel like it's done. So I did that just to get a background in life coaching, that approach to things. But yeah, but I'm a real business nerd at heart.
That's awesome. Do you have a certification in life? What certification do you have?
So it's EMCC, which is mentoring and coaching. And then I did a master's diploma in leadership coaching over the last year.
Wow. That's awesome.
It was cool. It was kind of scary going back to school because I've done all these other online courses, but they don't treat you like a school kid. This one really did. So that brought up a lot of issues for me. Because I really am at heart that girl that stands at the back of the class thinking she's too cool for everything.
Too cool
so
for school.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, that's my identity. So they had a hard time with me. But I actually just had lunch with the director of the program today because she was in London. And I got to I was like, I'm sorry. It was tough having me in class. I know. But now we're best friends and everything's cool.
Yay.
Nice. So you deal then with artists in what capacity? You said marketing. What else? What else do you help artists with?
Yeah. So I have two artist clients two artist clients at the moment, and they've come to me really to help them build an audience. And there's the traditional boxes that you can tick, like how do you grow on Spotify, how do you get on an editorial playlist, should we run ads, should I make music videos, blah blah blah. But I'm really interested in getting into the heart and soul of who they are and why somebody would want to support them and be part of their world and their vision and feel like they're one of them. And so I love getting into the depth piece, and we can do expression of that through social media content. But I'm way less interested in, I'll do whatever we need to do tactically, but that's like the 10%. The 90% is the identity, the who they are, and how that's kind of really resonating energetically. And I have a background in performance, so I really feel like I get the one-to-many communication experience.
So
yeah, Gemma's a freaking amazing singer. Oh, like just crazy. Just saying. Okay, that was all. What were you saying, Carrie? I interrupted you to be like, look it up. She's so good. Okay.
I want to know, because here I am at 40, just finally feeling like I have any kind of idea of what kind of identity I have as an artist. So how, we're talking about discovering that identity and pushing into that identity and showing that identity to the world. But what if we have no idea what that identity even is? Where do we even start?
Yeah. I think a really lovely place to start are really understanding your values, like your core values. And I actually made a YouTube video today, and this was one of the sections in it. And the YouTube video is called Become Who You Are. And I used to have this saying in my mind, you are who you are becoming. And I was like, I think that's flawed because the emphasis is on change. And become who you are, the emphasis is on discovery, like that it's already in there. It's just about chiseling away at the stone to reveal the Michelangelo David within. It's all there already. And we have all the evidence. And now that we've lived these lives, we can actually look back and see the patterns of behavior and see what there's a grain that I can go with that is just me. And so a few questions that I think can be really helpful. One of them is, actually, I'll start with this one because it's a negative exercise. What makes you angry? When do you get angry? Because when you're angry, right, that's when a boundary has been crossed. And that's when a core value has been infringed on. If I get, and this is I feel like I'm threatening you right now, but if I get interrupted, no, but honestly, if I get interrupted and I'm sharing a vulnerable thing or a personal story, and somebody just changes the subject and hasn't listened to me, and I don't feel seen and heard, I'm an only child. I got a lot of airtime as a child, so that flares up anger inside me. And it's happened especially when I'm dating and I'm an audience member to a man's stories for 4 hours, and I'm like, oh my God. So self-expression is a massive core value for me. And I need to feel absolute freedom and autonomy to be able to self-express exactly how I am. So when I was in that course situation where I'm like the good student and listening to the teacher, I'm like, but I want to push back. I want to have discourse. I need to, and that would stress me inside. So I think questions like that. And another question is like, can you remember a moment in time when you felt super in flow, in, you know, you were you were really proud of yourself and you were on one in the moment? What were you doing and what values are underlying that experience, that peak experience? And I know I look back and it was when I was presenting or doing workshops, and I'm like, self-expression, contribution, connection. I feel so much connection in those moments and understood, and I feel we're all on the same page together. It's an energy. So those questions can be a great starting place, and to really get some of the trends, the macro values that seem to be guiding the life.
So what makes you angry? And then when do you feel like you're really like in your most like powerful, happy, like productive space?
Zone.
Yeah.
Absolute. Yeah. In flow. Another one is like, what decisions or choices do you keep making over and over again? I keep organizing my life to give me privacy to create. Like I spend a lot of time on my own because I need to have a lot of time with my imagination. I need to think. And so independence and freedom and creativity, I feel like are a value because of those decisions I keep making.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
What if one of your core values is just bed?
Yeah.
What does that say about me as an artist?
I wonder, can I ask what you're doing in bed? Is it just sleeping?
Yeah, sleeping, reading,
Yeah.
hiding, probably numbing, if I'm honest. I've been doing better about it, but yeah, bed has been a huge value for me in the past. Okay, so then what happens? You come up with your list of core values, and how do you know if it's a core value, or like is there, because there are lots of values out there. How do we know specifically that this is a core value?
I think having lots of different case studies, which makes me sound very businessy about this process now, but like lots of evidence, gather different data points that, point in the direction of, yeah, you seem to keep selecting for this. You keep optimizing your life towards this. You keep having higher, better energy when you're doing this, and you feel drained and depleted when you do this. I think paying attention to your energy is really, really important. That will tell you all kinds of stories and everything, a lot of information in your energy.
Wow, paying attention to your energy.
Yeah, like, did that deplete me? Like, I feel like I'll leave this conversation today being like, I'm happy. Like, I won't feel like it was draining. I will feel like it was uplifting and
Well, that's
inspiring.
good.
And yeah.
I love that because so I think like saying being a woman of a certain age, it's like bad that we don't know who we are yet or whatever. But like really, if we frame it this way, we have it accessible, like you said, the David within, because we have a lot more like the experiences to case study and be like, oh, we know like
Exactly.
I always do this, or man, I love this and I wish like we
Mm.
actually do have that work done. We just have to listen to it and be like, where are the patterns, right?
Totally. And it is an ongoing process, and you will evolve, and experiences will send you in different directions. And I think another thing to keep in mind is that we have espoused values and enacted values. So we have the values that we believe we hold, and that's us, and we're all about that. But then our bank account shows something different, or how we've spent our time this week shows something different. I'm like, oh, but I've spent 6 hours on Instagram one day, and I spent most of my money on skincare, makeup, and clothes. It looks like I'm really into being hot and looking at Instagram. Like, are they my values? And so I think that it's like I think I'm always trying to help myself work towards living my values that I want to live.
So once we have our core values, we have our
Mm-hmm.
list.
Mhm.
What's next in the process?
So I think that when I'm working with an artist now or with an entrepreneur, most of my value is in observing them and watching them and so I went to an artist I was working with, had a photo shoot yesterday, and the old me would have shown up to that photo shoot feeling bad because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't organizing anything. I wasn't taking the photos. I wasn't picking the clothes. I wasn't helping with the makeup. I was doing nothing. I wasn't ordering lunch. I was just there. But as I was there, I was watching the artist interact with everyone. I was seeing when they were at their best, when they were not as optimally in their zone. I was like, they're very funny. I think that they maybe should do some comedy. That might bring something out in them and that might make them better on social media. So I'm just observing somebody how they are. And then the other artist I'm working with, I flew over to where he lives in Dublin, and I was like, we're just going to go for a long walk. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a cup of tea, and that's the coaching for the day. But I got to get to know him and hear him and hear how he tells stories and hear about his life experience. So I'm just trying to observe somebody and reflect back to them what I see in them. And when I'm noticing when I'm feeling very connected, noticing the things he told me that stuck with me and that resonated with me. And I'm just feeding all of that back to the artist. And then we become creative and curious about how do we turn that into content or promotion or marketing or opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So having I mean, I feel like Carrie and we talked an episode months ago now about reflectors, people like dream reflectors, people
Oh yeah.
who kind of witness you and
Yes.
send that energy back to you, and so for a lot of us that's a coach. And when I was talking about how I hired a coach a couple of months ago, it's Gemma.
Yeah.
So for some of us, hi Gemma, my coach. But for some people that they're in a spot in their life where their reflector is a professional person who they connect with, and they can get that reflection in that setting. But some of us don't have a coach, or we're not in the space to have a coach. And if you don't, that is often your friends, your community, or your right, who are the people that can
Totally.
kind of reflect back to you. And I think it's important to think about who can you trust with that, because I don't think
Hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
everybody should be the
Mm-mm.
person who witnesses and reflects to you what your qualities are, because there are a lot of people who should not be in that space, right?
How do you know who would be a good dream reflector and who would not?
Mm,
Yeah. It's such I love Dream Reflector. And it's such a good point that some people's voices can be too loud in your system. I have mine is my dad. I love and adore him, but I take on everything that he says, and I don't question it sometimes. But he has a very different worldview to what he thinks a happy life looks like for me, to what I think a happy life looks like for me. And sometimes I onboard what he sees as the vision,
mm,
and I lose myself.
Hmm.
I think it's really important that you're always taking time to be with yourself. It's like at the end of the day, I like to journal and I like to meditate. And I feel like I'm coming home to myself at the end of the day. I'm like, oh, hi, Gemma. How are you? God, that was a crazy day. Okay. And it's like I just have this meeting with myself in the evening before I go to sleep. So I think having some kind of a practice where you meet yourself
mm,
daily, and then when you hear those loud, stronger voices, there's definitely wisdom in there. But if you're centered in your frame, you're able to take what you need and understand. And the more you understand that person, the more you understand their value set and their frame and perspective of life and why they might say something like that and how it may not be relevant to you. So it's just having that, I think, that distance or that ability to observe it more.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What you just said something that's really interesting. Somebody that's centered in their frame.
Mm.
Can you explain that a little bit more? That's interesting.
I feel like I may have an advantage in that I've always been very individualistic. I think that's a trait of mine. Again, only child. I had a mother who, told me everything I did and said was wonderful and right, and I can be whoever I wanted to be. So that's like, I call that the Brita effect. That's my mom, and she's kind of gifted me with that.
Brita?
Now it,
Sorry.
yeah, Brita.
My mom's name is Rita, and I'm an only child.
Oh,
And sorry,
oh
same thing.
yeah.
Like you can't the sun rises and sets. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
She was the same. She was like, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Oh, amazing.
Sorry.
So it's a gift and it's a curse because, I spin off into space a little bit. And sometimes I find it hard to be part of society. But I think that it's given me this really unique ability to be individualistic and be very strong in the way I see the world and who I am and what I want from it. And now, again, I'm not very good at compromising. I'm single and I find it very hard to decide that that's the person that I want to spend my life with. So there are definitely downsides to it. But yeah, and I think I'm a bit obsessed with myself. So, like, I really think about what does Gemma want? I'm really like individual about everything. And so I know myself maybe too much. So there's probably a balance of that, but I've done loads of self development and I do loads of reflection and introspection. So I think that's where that very centered feeling comes from. And then it's always like being in just and then advocating for yourself. And creating those experiences of where you always advocate and stand up for yourself.
Mm.
I was talking to my book club ladies the other day, and we were talking about how we wanted to become more self-centered. And
Mm-hmm.
that's always had a negative connotation to it. Oh, you're
Yeah.
so self-centered, meaning you're so selfish. You can't see anyone else. But I think it's kind of beautiful. And what you said about the center of the frame
Mm-hmm.
reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Of like, if I am not in the center of my life and what's going on, if I'm in the margins of my own life,
Yeah.
what am I doing? That's
Yeah.
a scary place to be. That means other people are at the
Are
center and I've
driving.
lost
Yeah.
my identity.
Oh my God. And isn't that such an amazing reframe on that expression, self centered?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, shouldn't that be the most positive sentiment ever?
Mm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And even thinking about it in terms of other people, how can you show up for other people well?
Yeah.
How can you love other people well
Uh-huh.
when you're not even you you haven't centered yourself first? If you haven't figured out how to love yourself,
Mm-hmm.
how do you love other people? How do you show up for other people if you can't first show up for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Oh yeah. I mean, you lift up everyone around you. You need your own center of gravity first to be able to help or stabilize somebody else
Mm.
or support somebody else.
I like that too.
Absolutely.
Like you're your own center of gravity. That's
Mm.
and like get okay. So this topic today, Gemma is known from different interactions. This topic, I think, is like can be very inflammatory for certain people of learning like how do you help others if you can't help yourself, and how do you know anything about your identity. You have to know who you are and all this and take care of yourself. I don't know if any listeners are, because this is a beautiful topic and it's super important, but are eye rolly at this kind of thing, like, well, how do I really appreciate the tips on like what pisses you off, where do you feel like you're the most centered for yourself. And I think for me, my experience has been when people ask me about my identity, I get angry because I feel like I have spent a lot of my life trying to figure out what other people need me to be. And so I've
Mm-hmm.
really pinned that up. Like, it's like, oh, you need in my career, you need a teacher who knows this. Okay, great. I'll go figure that out. You need a singer who knows how to do this. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, you're a mom. You've got to be these things. Great. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to needing to figure out what you would do all by yourself if there was no one else around. What's your core telling you about what you would be doing? Um, that's been something for me too. It's like if left in my home alone and no one
Mhm.
needs anything from me, that's just for any like me's out there that are like, what?
So then you find your dream reflector,
Mhm.
you center yourself in the frame.
Mhm.
And then how does that translate then to connecting with your art, your
Mm.
identity with your art?
The next step is to let yourself be seen. So
Oh.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Oh.
I know. So we've got to open the doors on the frame and let everybody look in. And we can't contort and start hiding bits of us. We have to just let people see us. It's not that we have to show our entire lives, but it's just when they see us, they need to see the full us. They don't need to see the full version of our lives, but what they do see, they need to see the full of that. Um, and so, yeah, that's why, okay, another prompt for values is who do you admire and why? And I admire comedians generally. I love Theo Vaughn. I love any comedian who's wonderful on the spot because I feel like, oh my God, it's such a risk. You're being so unfiltered in that moment. And I admire it so much when somebody can be just there and present and real. And so I think with art or expression, it's having that ability to be seen and yeah, not curate or contort in that moment.
I think that is the hardest part of this whole process
Yeah.
because it is so easy on social media. It is so easy to curate,
Yeah.
and that unswerving commitment to no, I'm going to be honest
Mhm.
and I'm going to show, but I'm going to be honest in my showing.
Mhm.
I think is, oh man,
Yeah.
that is a hard balance to strike right there.
And in your
It is
art in
definitely.
general, because like that's extremely vulnerable, and you're already like, my art's really vulnerable, and so you typically will pick through like, what do I think people would like from this, like, instead of just being like,
Yeah.
this is what I made, and you can see
Yes.
it, this is the whole thing,
Mm.
yeah, scary.
I think it is scary, and I haven't mastered it myself. I'm still attached to how things will be received, and that matters to me, and it gets in my way big time. I know for me, I've just started creating content again, and it's taken me a really long time actually this time. And the way I talked myself into it was it's self expression, and I have this urge and need and desire to just get things off my chest. I'm just talking to myself, and I'm like, if anyone else will benefit from it, great. But right now, I just need to get things off my chest. And so that's driving me forward. I think that's why the values are so helpful, because they're so individually motivating for you. They're just very unique to you and can be the right motivators you need.
Mm-hmm.
How can you tell when you are curating a self that isn't authentic? Do you have
Mm.
a feeling? Is it something you hear? What is it for you that lets you know?
It's intention. You need to be honest with yourself. What was the intention of posting that? And
Right.
I don't know if you've seen that meme that goes around of David Beckham and Victoria Beckham, where he keeps coming in and he keeps going, oh, there's like this clip where do you know David Beckham and Victoria Beckham?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a documentary out about them, and she's being interviewed about, growing up as a child and how she was working class. And he keeps coming in going, be honest, be honest, be honest. And eventually she goes, well, we were dropped off at school in a Rolls Royce. And he's like,
Oh.
there you go. Okay. And
Working
so,
class.
and,
Okay. Yeah.
And so in my mind, I have the David Beckham voice in my head going, be honest, be honest. Why are you actually posting this? I'm like, it's because I look cute today. And I just said I'd say something random to make everybody see that I look cute today. Or it's
I get
because,
it.
I need some attention. Or it's because I just need to share and I want to connect. And actually, most of the time that I post on Instagram, it's because I'm lonely and I want to connect. And I'm live on my own, and oftentimes I just have ideas I'm excited about, and I can't blow up another WhatsApp group with this idea. I have to actually just put it on the internet because my friends can't, they're going to get exhausted from me. So I think it's purifying or checking the intention as to why you're posting this. And if you're happy with that and you're happy with anybody knowing about what that intention is, then it's probably a good intention.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, intentions are because we think for the longest time I thought why I do something and what I think about doesn't really matter. All of
Yeah.
it is what's happening out here.
Yeah.
And that is not true.
Mm-hmm.
The reasons why we do things and what we
Mm-hmm.
think about
Mm-hmm.
absolutely counts and absolutely matters. And
Yeah.
people can sense that. I
Oh, they
think
can sense it.
they can
Totally.
absolutely feel when something is honest or when something is not honest. And
Mm.
so it matters.
Mhm.
I know, and I'm doing this all the time, watching social media now, and I've become, because this is now my job, I've become really sensitive to it. And I can see somebody on a video and I'm like, they're doing the right things. She's got her jumper tucked into the jean in the fashionable way to do it. And she's doing the walking onto camera and she's doing the trend. But I can feel it's so not her. It's just an energetic thing you can see. And
Right.
I'm like, why can't she just be the nerd that she really is?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we need more of those. Come
Yeah.
on, nerds.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I've noticed in students and in people I've worked with at VU, like just different artists and myself, that I am often like, okay, but what am I supposed to do to be like popular or be, tuck the
Mhm.
thing in, do the stuff like uh, no, just be like, oh, what do I love that so much. You could, okay, it was a couple weeks ago, I think we were talking, Gemma, and I was just like, oh, so I could just be myself and like people will like that, and I could like make money doing the thing I'm good at, and I don't have to like make it what I think people want it to be. Now look, duh, right? But for some reason it's finally starting to click, like,
Yeah.
oh, I could just do what I want and that's good
Yes.
enough. Like,
Yeah.
these are all those like key phrases that used to really just piss me off. Like, and so now the me's of the podcast listening are like, oh, great. Okay, so more of this bullshit. But really, it is that you get to just be yourself
You
and figure
do.
that out and figure out how to communicate it to other people. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah, and look, both of them are journeys to go on. So there's option A is be yourself and let the market come to you. And there's option B, keep shape shifting to fit what you think the market might like. Both of
Mm.
them, you'll make money from both of them. But it's way easier to just go deep and figure out exactly who you are and the value that you bring, and have patience and trust that people will want that and come to that, because they will, because it's undiluted and it's valuable and it's, steeped in experience and expertise, and you're in flow with being your most genuine version of you. So your energy and your passion are going to be super switched on. Who doesn't want to be around that?
Mm.
Trust. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So you gotta like trust yourself.
Oh no, hate that bit.
Patience.
Yeah.
These are all very gross, difficult things.
Ew.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. Gemma, what do you think if you could tell artists out there one thing that you've noticed with our weirdo group of people that make crap, what would it be from your perspective?
Oh, so many things. The first thing that jumped into my mind is ship it. That's the Seth Godin saying, just ship it. So be in a state of, make it like, what is it? There's another quote: great art isn't finished, it's abandoned. Nothing is ever finished. It's just like, make it move on, make it move on. Because that's what you do, you create. So don't stagnate and actually be a creator in motion of creation all the time. And to create, you need to put it out and move on. So, and you can't really learn from it without doing it and without putting it out there. And it's not about repetition, it's about iteration. It's about doing it and going, how did that work? How did that make me feel? What do I want to do differently this time? And you're just in a state of making, sending it out, iterating, making, so that you just get into that nice rhythm. I think the more you can get into that, the better, because God, another quote, sorry, because I'm just like, I'm just after doing a YouTube video, but I think it's helpful. It's like, oh God, I'm going to get the quote wrong, but it's like a Newton's law, something that stays still will continue to stay still.
An object
An
in
object
motion.
in motion will stay in motion unless something comes in to change that. So you want to get in motion as an artist.
Right.
And you can't really learn until you're actually doing.
Right. But what if I just watch enough YouTube videos or enough masterclass videos?
Oh yeah, I know.
Will that work?
$10 a month.
Or I just sit on Instagram and watch other people do it and think about how I would do it differently.
Right.
I know, I do that all
Just
the
be
time.
a critic.
Yep.
Yeah. No, you actually have to do stuff. When I coach singers, I'm always like, go do an open mic. Go do it. Write your song and go sing it. And they're like, well, do you really think I'm ready? And I'm like, we're never ready. And always ready. You have to start doing stuff. You don't know what you feel like when you freak out until you go freak out. You don't know like how people are going to respond to something until you have people out there to put it out to for them to respond to you. Like,
that's right.
But it's all very scary, brave work.
Loads of courage. It's all courage. Add that to the other list of patience and trust and courage. It's like, and the confidence doesn't tend to come at the beginning, which is so annoying. It's so annoying that that's not built in. We have to go through the bit where we're not confident. So you need courage then you do it, and then you get some evidence. And you're like, oh, then you get a top up in confidence, but it has to start with a bit of a leap.
Right. Where do you get confidence from? Like you personally, Gemma, when you feel like things are flagging and you're kind of like, how do you get it?
I think other people, like maybe it's, probably from having conversations with other people, reading back over old testimonials. No, I would have conversations. I would check in. Yeah, connection. I think my life force and how my life works the best is being in connection first and foremost, then self-care. But people, I swear this is my last quote. I don't know why I'm so quotey today.
Quote it up. Just do it.
Oh my God. I don't even have I can't attribute it either, but we are people. We are only people in, oh God, we are only people in the presence of people. Like we need other people to give us context of how we're people.
Yeah.
And so I just need, and I love you guys for what you do here, and that you're best friends, and that you guys talk about things that you're deeply passionate about, and you meet up regularly like this. And I mean, for me, that would just be such a tick box of good life force for me. So that's, I feel like, where when I'm flagging in confidence, I would turn to my people.
Absolutely. What about you, Emily? Where do you get your confidence from?
What confidence? Let's see.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
I think there are two answers to this for me. One, the perceived confidence, I literally have no idea, because people have told me my whole life, that I'm so confident. And I do not feel confident. And I also I feel like, in fact, I have fought against whatever makes people think I'm confident. And that's created this very self-doubty external, I don't know, because I found that people try to take me down a peg because they think I'm confident. So where that comes from, maybe it was just my mom and dad being like, you can't do anything wrong. So it just is. But when I need confidence and I'm actually having to find it and build it, I think community is a huge thing and feedback is huge. But I actually think there's this is really nerdy and maybe I sound like an insane person. But I recently have figured out that I can tap into a part of myself that is in there somewhere that's she's always dressed up with a fake cigarette and being like, we got this. Oh my God. All watch this, all you peasants.
Ooh.
And I have to find her and be like, yeah. We do have this. I have to go in and find that bitch because I sometimes she's under a pile of leaves and just a bunch of
Leaves.
garbage and shit. And I'm like, are you in there? And she's like, I'm here. And I'm like, okay. So that's weird. I have to believe she's in there somewhere and figure out where she is. Cause sometimes people can tell me things over and over and empower me, and I don't hear them until
Yep.
she's out. So
Yep.
what about you, Carrie?
Yep. I have my phone and I do a lot of voice memoing where I'll just talk to it. And I literally coach myself. And it's, I'll have a problem at the beginning and I'm a big external processor. I have to get it out of my body. And so I talk to that. I never re-listen to them. They've already served their purpose. And by the end of recording it, I'll feel like I have a direction, or I feel like I know what I need to do, or I feel like, oh yeah, that's who I am. Duh. How could I have forgotten again?
I know, we keep forgetting.
Yes. So it's a combination of that and talking to the people that I love. Like I had a conversation with my friend the other day. This last week was really hard and confidence took a big nosedive. And my friend said, what do you need? She doesn't live here. We talk on Marco Polo. What do you need? And I said, I just need for you to believe that I can do this work. I need you to be a witness by believing in me. If you can do that, that would mean the world to me. And she said, absolutely, I can do that. Like any good friend, but I believe her, at the same time, I believe that she does believe in me. So I think it's a combination of those two, myself and other people. But yeah, and I agree with the community thing, Gemma. It's people do remind us of our peopleness, and that's invaluable. If I didn't have Emily to talk to every week about this stuff, the marbles rolling around in my brain, I'd probably lose them.
Yeah.
So
Same.
Same.
Yeah. P.S. That is a huge part of my life. My poor friends and husband just constantly what do I do? That is a huge part of it. But the cigarette lady is also
cigarette lady.
I love her. I feel like I have a version that's more Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion.
Ooh, sassy.
I know. And I'm just way too Karen-y to listen to her, but I mean, I'm not a Karen, but I fit the profile and but I'm listening to that and that definitely gives me some confidence. I like that. Yeah, I feel differently for sure. That's a state changer.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of Lizzo when I need to be Soulmate is on and I'm just like, I know how to love me. And then I think that's when like that character emerges from the garbage leaf pile and is like, yes. So yeah.
Garbage leaf pile. Good. It's amazing. Gemma, how can people find you, follow you, stalk you? All the
Yes,
above. Not
please.
stalk. Not
Not
stalk.
stalk,
Just
just
find you online.
follow.
Yes.
Not physically.
Come
Right.
this way. Um, so yeah, Instagram is probably my main home. I'm going to try and be on LinkedIn. That's like my next pursuit. I am starting to upload YouTube videos. But really, I think find me on Instagram and you'd find the rest from there.
What's your Instagram handle?
At Gemma Sugrue.
Okay. And we will have how to get a hold of Gemma in the show notes. So don't fear, dear listener. We gotcha. Yeah. Anything else? You have a website?
Yeah, gemmasugru.com. But I'm very personable. Like you can DM me on Instagram or, say hi. I love that.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you so much for being here. This is just, I mean, before we logged on today, I was thinking about the Stockholm meeting, and I'm like, let flash forward. It's been that was like 8 years ago or something.
Yeah, wow.
And now
Uh-huh.
we're doing this work together. You're a
Isn't
guest
it
on our
incredible?
podcast. What? So it means so much
It's
to me that you're here today. Thank you.
oh, I'm
Same.
so excited. And genuinely, I've been listening to the show for like pure enjoyment, like not just like supporting or anything. I'm like, I want to listen to the show and I love it. And I love your conversation. So
Thank you.
I had my fingers crossed that you'd invite me on. So thank you.
Yay. Oh my God. Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, until next week, dear listeners, we'll talk soon.
Honestly, dear listener.